At the same time that half of our armed forces is in the Middle East for yet another regime change war for Israel, we can't even deploy 5,000 National Guard and Border Patrol put together to liberate an American city. Minneapolis is controlled by Somali scammers working with the Democrat Party machine in the city, working with the shithead radical left communists that are agitating in the streets. Hollywood, the media, they have control over Minneapolis. Who runs one of the nicest states in the country with the best healthcare and education and government efficacy? Who runs that state? Well, it's Jacob Fry, who said, "Get the fuck out of our city, ICE." And it's Tim Walz. And it's a bunch of Africans that are Muslim that shouldn't even be here, and illegal immigrants and communists, like those idiots that got killed by ICE and Border Patrol. That's who runs America. That is a sampling of who runs our country. Who runs Chicago? This militant black communist, Brandon Johnson, and the gangbangers and the burglars and the carjackers and criminals. Who runs New York? Muslim socialist, the fucking homeless that are everywhere, that are in the subway, that are leaping over the turnstiles, won't pay the fare. That's who runs. This is who runs America. This is who runs the United States. And for most of the country's population, that is who runs your government. That is who runs your economic center. Most of the population lives in these Democrat shitholes or near them, in a big Democrat state controlled by a major Democrat city with a huge Democrat state government. And that's who's pulling the strings there. Liberal billionaires, city machine politics, these deadbeats that work for the Democrat Party, radical college students, Antifa, and the illegal immigrants, the foreigners. This is who runs America. This is where all the tax dollars go. Apparently, that is who controls the major cities. They have veto power over borders and immigration law. And you can't deploy 1,000 National Guard to even one of them. You can't deploy a few thousand Border Patrol and ICE to even one of them. Tried it. Sent the National Guard and ICE and Border Patrol to some of the cities, and what happened? They got bitched. They got resisted. They got shoved out, and ultimately they retreated and surrendered and said, you know what? You have it. That's what happened in LA with the riots. That's what happened in Chicago when people rioted outside the detention facility in Broadview. That's what happened in Minneapolis. So Trump tried to fight for regime change in our country, where maybe we would be able to walk the city streets at night safely from criminals and vagabonds, where we could have borders, not be inundated with illegal immigrants, so we could fight corruption, not have all our tax dollars stolen by African Muslims that are here on TPS. That didn't work. And Trump gave up after a year. And I say that, by the way, as a resident of a suburb outside Chicago. And I had some expectation. I didn't vote, so I didn't have very high expectations that Trump might actually use our military and security and police power to restore order in America, in Chicago, in LA, in Minneapolis, in New York. And not just the law and order and the public transit, but also on the immigration front, you know, that we would actually have a country. But year in, we don't have it. At the same time, and this is really the gut punch, at the same time that we are being told by our America First president, no, we can't restore order in Chicago, too complicated. We can't restore order in Minneapolis. The protesters are too fierce. We have half of the fucking military in the Middle East again. Really? How insane is that? Go and look at a globe, go on Google Maps, and look at how big the oceans are. How big is the Pacific Ocean? How big is the Atlantic Ocean? And we have half of our military on the other side of the planet, locked and loaded, getting ready for this huge undertaking, so expensive, so complicated, so risky, so unnecessary to topple another government, because like 10 wasn't enough. Wasn't enough to do Iraq, Syria, Libya, Lebanon. None of this was enough. Egypt, twice. Afghanistan. Now we got to go into Iran for the benefit of Israel. What Israel wants, Israel gets. This has been their mission for 45 years. They have been pushing us to do this for the last quarter century. Think about how messed up that is and what they are willing to do. Get Minneapolis under control? Can't do it. Impossible. Too difficult. Tim Walz and Jacob Fry and Antifa? We got to draw this down. We're going to stick to deporting only the criminal illegals. This is too difficult. Oh, but the 1 million man Iranian Revolutionary Guard and military, country and 90 fucking million people on the other side of the planet? Well, it's going to be tough, but no one ever said it would be easy. What? How can anybody claim at this point, seriously, that this administration is America first? I just don't even know how you could say that with a straight face. And I see it on the timeline all day long because I'm complaining about this. I've been talking about this on my show, on Twitter. I say, look, MAGA is dead. It's over. This was supposed to be a movement for the forgotten men and women. We got forgotten. It was supposed to be about putting America first and redirecting our attention inward towards our problems as citizens rather than outwardly towards the world's problems and other countries' problems. Obviously, that's not the case. All you need to do is look at what is happening here. Leaving Minneapolis, deploying to the Persian Gulf, couldn't hack it fighting Antifa, fighting that nurse and the lesbian poet. That was too dangerous. But we're over there fighting Iran's million-man army. All you need to do is look at what's happening. And yet you have Trump's biggest defenders on Twitter every day saying, don't black pill. If you're not on board with this, well, you're not serious. Grow up. That's not how politics works. Tell me then, please, how politics works. I'm waiting for Trump's biggest defenders, for J.D. Vance's biggest defenders. Tell me how politics works. At what point do we get what we want? We voted for law and order and borders how many times since 2016? Voted for that in 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. We're coming up on 26. When do we get it? When is that even a priority? When are they even going to try? I'm really unhappy with what we're getting. I'm growing impatient. You tell me now I'm not serious. I just don't know how it works. I need to grow up. We can't just burn it all down. Okay, well, you tell me, at what point do we liberate the country? At what point do we stop liberating the Middle East and we start liberating us? We're talking about Iranian protesters and Iranians' aspirations for freedom and Iran. And okay, what about Minnesota? What about New York? What about Illinois? What about California? Can we liberate this? And they say, well, we can't do that. Surely it's possible. Surely. If you could kidnap Maduro, if you could go into Iran and bomb Fordo with a 50,000-pound bomb, if we could have half of our Air Force over there, surely we could handle Minneapolis and St. Paul. It's not even that big of a city. Like, that's a start. How many Somalians even live there? Like 90,000? Seriously? So how many are in the Revolutionary Guard? 500,000? You can't deport 90,000 Somalis that are just idiots. They're just like disorganized idiots. They got bows and arrows. They don't even have a legal right to be here. Can't do it. They're setting up an autonomous zone. Renee Good, the lesbian, and the other guy, the male nurse, they're setting up a autonomous zone with a couple of garbage cans in the intersection. Oh my, no, we can't send ICE in there. Too dangerous. Yeah, but let's go and fight the whole Middle East. again. Let's go and fight Hezbollah, the Houthis, the PMF, IRGC, the Ayatollah. They're not even trying. They're just not even trying to make the case anymore. And that's when I say I'm out. I'm for America first. No regime change in Iran. Let Israel figure it out. Let them fight their own war. Let's figure out what's going on over here. We should not even be thinking about the Middle East until there are 0 Haitians in Springfield, 0 Somalis in Minneapolis, 0 Venezuelans in Houston. Then we can figure out, everybody else's issues.